Good morning, everybody. It's Mike with smartoptiontrading.com. It is Sunday, the 6th of April. This is my week ahead video I do for members. This is going to be an extra long one. You've been warned. We have a lot to go over. I'm putting this out there for free. I hope this helps you guys as we go into this week and get an idea of what I'm thinking. If you like what you hear here and you'd like to join us in our live trading room and get analysis like this every day, all throughout the day, come to smartoptiontrading.com, link in the description below, click on live trading alerts, and we can go from there. All right. That's it. That's my sales pitch. We're done. Let's talk about what we have coming up this week, and then let's talk about where we are with everything. So this week on the economic perspective, consumer credit interests me on Friday afternoon. On Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock, just to see how bad it looks. We have the FOMC minutes on Wednesday. The big one is on Thursday morning CPI. So a lot of people are going to be looking hard at CPI. Remember, these tariffs are not going to affect CPI, not this report. That would not come in until next report at the soonest. So, it's not really going to see any of that coming in here. But if it's up, it just puts more pressure on the Fed to hold rates. Okay, so that's a problem. Friday morning, we get PPI, final demand, another inflationary number, and then Michigan consumer sentiment and inflation expectations, which have been extremely weak the last couple of times it's come in. So, we're going to be looking hard at that. We got a bunch of Fed speak, by the way, courtesy of Trader Exchange. Thanks, you guys. I share this. A lot going on here this week on top of all of the tariff palooza. Thanks, Jeff, for that. That's going to be going on, right? Europe has yet to respond. The report out of Reuters is that Europe is going to get together, the EU is going to get together on Monday afternoon their time and try to have a unified response. If they don't, then it could be a free-for-all. France and Germany are pushing for extremely hard measures. Italy's like, why even respond? And everybody else is somewhere in between. So we'll see what we're going to get there. Nice little article out there by Reuters. We'll see how we respond there. It's been a pretty quiet weekend. Currently, we're seeing that the futures market is down. So what happens is when you go out there, there's a website out there that shows your futures, the overall futures bets, and we've been dropping here. And it's worth noting that we've been dropping as, um, what's his name? Haslett and both Haslett and Bessent have been speaking. Nobody's believing them. All right. It's worth noting. Nobody's buying what they're saying anymore. Nobody here is believing this. Currently on the Dow, we're down 194 points. Doesn't mean anything until we get close to the open. Okay. So we have all that going on. There's options here. We could see the administration, supposedly a bunch of tech leaders and financial leaders flew to Mar-a-Lago yesterday to meet with Trump today. It's unclear whether this is his request or they requested it, but I'm sure he's getting an earful today. That what I would imagine. Earnings key season starts this week. We have Delta on Wednesday morning. We already guided down. We know they're not expecting a good report. We already know that the travel industry is slowing. Finally see rates come down. You're going to get Constellation Brands on the night. God, not a good time to be a alcoholic vendor, beverage vendor. And then really on Friday morning, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo, the big banks. I'm most interested in hearing what JP Morgan says and what Jamie Dimon says because his voice carries a lot of weight. We got BlackRock in there as well. Let's talk sentiment as we come in here. There's some interesting stuff going on here. It really is. So I'm going to start off with the put to call. Put to call, we have a big spike into the bear zone. We're nowhere near highs we've seen. That means people are running for protection, but not yet enough. This is a contrarian indicator. Usually when you get too bearish, you get a smackdown. When you get too bullish, you get, everybody comes, smack down there too. It's just a contrarian. People lean too far one way or the other. It's a problem. Market breadth, new all-time low on the NASDAQ, just absolutely puking. The New York Stock Exchange joining in the pukage here. The advanced decline lines just dumped on Friday. And the oscillators, we keep struggling to get really good signals. Negative 169 here on the New York Stock Exchange. These negative 300s are what we're looking for. All right, we're not even anywhere close to that on the NASDAQ. We got a better signal at negative 263. That tends to get down to negative 400. We're just not there, but at least in the NASDAQ, we have a signal we can look at. And then there's this. This is the number of stocks making highs versus lows on the NASDAQ. Plus 36 versus negative 1400. This is carnage. And if you take this here and you look at this on a longer term chart, you back this up, here's 20 years of this. You can see now we're in big company here. You look at some of these dates here, right? You look at some of the carnage we had here on this. Here's your the pandemic, right? Come back here into financial crisis. You're getting into some really good areas here at this point. You have the same thing going on the S&P 500, plus 12 versus negative 546. So sentiment is extremely negative out there. The CNN Fear and Greed Index is trading somewhere around the what do you call around two. I think, in that area. All right. So let's open this up and let's talk. My plan for this week is simple. Could we bounce tomorrow? Yeah. Yeah. The market's overdue for a bounce. We're extremely extended down. We have two huge gap downs here. We could bounce 10% and not change a thing in this market. I think that's important to realize here. You come up 10% off the recent lows and you can still do nothing. History says we favor a bounce tomorrow. If Europe's going to hold off until Monday night, probably we can get a bounce. We'll see. If we dump, the levels to watch. We talked about this 590.58 puts the SPY into a bear market. The Qs and the IWM are already there. 493.86, the 52-week low. Bear in mind, that would be the 52-week low. We are already red for 52 weeks. We've wiped out a year's worth of gains here on the S&P 500. If we bounce, watch this gap. 525.85. We'll see what happens up in that area. Bottom line is head on a swivel. I like us for a gap down. Would be a great setup tomorrow. We'll see if we get it. The Qs already in a bear market, closed in bear market territory. 413.07 is the next area to watch. You have a gap down there at 409.10. The IWM, forget about it. I want nothing to do with it. The Dow is now approaching bear market territory. That's down at 358. That's a little ways to go. This is important because Trump watches that one the most. The VIX, huge spike. We talked for weeks that we need to get into the mid 30s. Yep, got that. Here we are at 45. So this is why this is important. Okay. Um, it's important because options now are more expensive. Implied volatility is up, which drives the option prices. We're probably looking at almost double or even more of option prices. So if you're shorting, that works great. IV is going up, it's going your direction, it's great. The problem comes in when you try to play for a bounce and the market's bouncing and you're like, why are my calls not moving? It's because if the VIX is dropping, the implied volatility is dropping. It's very, very difficult. Okay. So as you start to play this on the bounces, you have to be closer to the money to offset the amount of IV decay that's going to be going on, the applied volatility that's coming out. Bottom line is until we close back in the Bollinger Bands, which are down at 35, it's a risk-off environment. Here, this, you look back on here, that was the carry trade, right? So again, look at some of these charts. Where could we go? Here's your carry trade. Here's the pandemic. Here's the financial crisis. You know, so we broke above a lot of levels here into this 45 area. You can see the VIX doesn't historically tend to go this high. So we have a lot going on here. All right, let's ramp this up a little bit and talk about some other things. Um, let's talk oil. Oil's getting destroyed. Why? Toxic environment. United States is pumping. OPEC Plus is increasing production more than expected. You have fears of a global recession, and it's tied to the dollar. Speaking of the dollar's getting destroyed. Nice bounce back on Friday, but overall killed. A weak dollar is good to a point. Watch if it breaks below that 100. That's a problem. Bonds been rallying. Good. Rates are coming down. That's good to see, but it's not rallying for the right reasons. It's a flight to safety. So we came way off the highs on Friday. That's interesting. Gold off the all-time highs, couldn't hold back to the 21 day. Bitcoin is very important here. Bitcoin has detached itself from the markets. It had been moving with the markets. Look at this. It's firmed up. It's strengthening. 85 level, then watch this 90 level. These are big levels to watch. That would means I would keep my eyes on MSTR, which went green for a while on Friday before coming back. Went green on Friday, right? Nice little move there. Coin, Hood, these are your big names to watch. And then you can watch the miners, although they've been beaten the hell out of. CleanSpark, Mara, my friend Mara told me that Mara is now trading underneath the value of its Bitcoin it holds. It's just amazing, right? You can watch all these names here. The financial beaten up, big gap down here. They report on Friday. Watch that 43 level, into that level here. See if we hold. JP Morgan, the one to watch, right? Friday, JP Morgan, the one to watch. Notice we've already come down this 211 area. We'll see how they hold here. Okay, a lot of pain there. Lilly, best in breed, getting destroyed in in the um, in the pharma area. If they can't hold, not much will. Watch the 725. It's worth noting that Amgen still is a better looking chart out there. Bristol Myers holding in better. There are still some names that are holding up. It's also worth noting that all these safety names, Coke, CL, right, all getting destroyed. Money's coming out of that. When you start looking for possible bottoms, I start looking for there's no safe havens. When they can't find a safe haven, that's typically when we'll find a bottom. It's also worth noting that we got an incredible amount of destruction on Friday from margin calls, both Thursday and Friday. A lot of funds got trapped. Big margin. They said the largest margin call on Friday they've had since the pandemic. So, all this is slowly getting unwound. Let's talk to transports. I know I'm all over the place. Transport's 52-week low, getting destroyed. They're worried about a global recession. Never good for the economy. When the transports are weak, very hard for the markets to bounce. UPS, a new 52-week plus low. FedEx, also 52-week low. Not a good sign, right? We know we have problems with consumer. All right, we'll talk around. What else can we talk about here? Let's look around here. Some of the names I put into there. For whatever reason, Rocket is strong. Not a refinancing going on above 16. This one gets interesting. I haven't traded that one forever. CELH, tough area, but I like this one here above the 3750 area. It's worth noting. Hanging in. McDonald's finally capitulated. Starbucks getting destroyed. Starbucks now creating an island top here. And, here you are into this gap. You have room all the way down here into the 77 area, 78 area if that wants to continue to come down. Again, we're losing all the leaders. AT&T, big dividend play. Look at this, coming in. Meta, I've been saying Meta needs to split. Now it's getting more tradable at 500. The real area to watch is going to be 460. 460 is a real support there. If it comes down, we'll see. Meta not affected by tariffs, but Europe could go after them and other of the big tech names also. Ad revenue could start drying up really quickly. Netflix also lost this big trend line. Not a great name here for this. Watch this 800 area, the 810 area where the 200-day is. Not affected by tariffs, but again, if there's a lot of advertising revenue on there, that could drive quickly. So, you got to be watchful for things like this. What else? Let's talk Google. Let's talk semis. The semis just dropped to a 52 plus week low. Missed for most people in the China retaliation. Forget the tariffs, they're not good. Forget all the companies they restricted and or banning or doing whatever. It's the restricting our access to their rare earth minerals, right? Rare earth minerals are a big part of all the chips, all of electronics. And if you're restricting us, that means we can't make them as fast. That means that could be a problem for the semis. You can't make chips. You look around, Intel, watch the 19 level. If you like this name for a long-term buyout or change, that 19 level or 1850 is a big spot to watch. NVIDIA. NVIDIA is getting hammered here. Why? Well, because all that money that's going into CapEx can just stop in a second. Why? Because companies can say, given the current macro environment, we're holding or pausing or we're not longer spending money. Right now, NVIDIA has been able to charge whatever they want for chips, right? They could charge whatever they want, but the problem is if people start canceling these $100 million orders, it all goes out the wayside real quick. You have what we have, the Magnificent Seven spending something like 5-6 billion on CapEx this year for AI. So, you have to watch to see where it comes in. Watch down here, watch this 90 level, and then we'll start watching down here towards 80. Talking of that one, also ARM. ARM under 100. I like this company long term. They're a disruptor. I like them. AMD unfortunately just plummeted below 95 on the gap down here, 83, in huge amounts of trouble. It is what it is. See where we go. Your big cap tech names, we'll start off with Google, right? Like Meta getting beaten up here, coming in, new 52-week low. Nothing rare I really want to do. Amazon a little stronger. Tried to hold up, tried to go green on Friday, couldn't quite get there, but holding a little stronger. Apple, the talk is that they could eat the cost of the tariffs at a 15% margin hit, which would bring them down to about 32% from a 47% margin. They're probably not going to want to do that. That means they're going to have to figure things out, but they will. You have a big gap at 180.37 if we continue to dump, something to keep an eye on. Tesla, Tesla's trying to hold in better. Why? Because talk continues that Musk is going to leave Doge and head back there. That would be a boon for the stock. Holding is slightly better, but if it cannot, watch this 220 level because under that it could signal more weakness. Bottom line is my plan is this. We go into the market on Monday, and the real thing is, if we have no news when we open low, I'd be looking for a bounce. I'm not chasing shorts on Friday. I'm certainly not chasing shorts down here. 490.58 is a bear market on the SPY. We're there on the Qs. We're there on the IWM. Might as well go up and get it. Earnings season's going to kick in. You know, if you're worried about missing the bounce, I wouldn't be. Uh, the chances of getting a V bounce to all time back to highs is very slim here. This is a different type of animal. This is an animal that's being driven by a slowing economy, a consumer that is maxed out on debt due to inflation, and now you have politics and dealing with the tariffs that are coming into play here. So unlikely we're going to shoot right back up. In fact, I expect earnings not to be good, but we'll see. So pick your spots, pick the names you like. For me, looking for a bounce, maybe even a 6% bounce or so, get us back to where we were here, somewhere in that area. Look at the 8-day, right? And when you look at the SPY, the 8-day is here at 846. We closed at 505, 40 handles off of it. You don't see this very often, guys. Again, you want to join me, smartoptiontrading.com, a link in the description below. To all my members, if you need to chat, I'm always here for you guys free. Everybody else, I hope this helps you guys. You're doing well and have a wonderful Sunday.